The torches tremble in the wind of the Tiber. The moonless sky of Rome seems to swallow the cracked columns of the Forum. The smell of iron, smoke, and fear mixes with the prayers murmured by a crowd that no longer believes in its own strength. Statues of the ancient gods stare into emptiness, while weary-eyed veterans touch the scars that time has not healed. It is the day when Rome, mistress of the world, kneels for mercy. The walls still standing hide the distant sound of bells and drums, as if fate echoes its final sentence. The city that believed itself to be eternal now tastes the bitter taste of its own arrogance. Because no empire falls suddenly, it rots inside, disguised as glory. And when the stones of the Senate shake, what one hears is not only the collapse of a power, but the beginning of a request that the world learn from its ruins. If this scene gave you goosebumps, it's because Rome still speaks, through history, through the sound of ruins, and the lesson that echoes in every empire it thought was eternal. Leave your like right now, because it shows the algorithm that stories like this still matter. Comment below, what do you think caused Rome to kneel? Was it pride, fate, or punishment? Every comment helps spread that reflection to more people, and your support keeps the flame of that work alive. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters of this cinematic journey through the rise and fall of empires. Show YouTube that you are part of the legion that still listens to what the past tries to teach us. 27 BC. The world witnesses the birth of a new time. Augustus builds the city on laws, order, and marble. The sound of hammers echoes through the hills, erecting temples that touch the sky. The dust of the newly paved roads covers the sandals of merchants who come from afar, bringing gold, olive oil, and stories. The empire shines like a sun that is impossible to extinguish. The legions march in perfect synchrony. The iron of the sword shimmers in the heat, and the golden eagles dominate the horizon. In the baths, the steam carries conversations about politics and glory. In the Senate, the murmur is of power. The people vibrate in the circuses. The poets sing of the eternal greatness of Rome. The coins display the faces of gods and men confused in the same faith. The Pax Romana covers the borders like a cloak of forced tranquility. Everything seems indestructible. And it is precisely in this perfection that the first thread of ruin begins to loosen, invisible, patient, and fatal. 180 AD. Marcus Aurelius's body has not yet cooled, and there is already restlessness in the air. The throne becomes commodious, and with it, virtue gives way to pleasure. The sound of the funeral horns mixes with the laughter of the parties in the palace. The Senate is silent, the legions murmur. On the borders, the winds from the north bring rumors of impatient tribes, testing the strength of the empire. The gold flows, but the respect evaporates. Soldiers demand pay, generals plot, and loyalty is measured in denarii. The city, once disciplined, now breathes decadence. The arenas, which celebrated bravery, became the stage of vanity and blood. Each applause sounds emptier than the last. Rome begins to lose what made it Rome: duty, faith, balance. And when an empire forgets its purpose, it becomes easy prey to itself. The walls are still firm, but the heart that supported them begins to fail in silence. 235 AD. The blood of Emperor Alexander Severus still stains the countryside as a new cycle of chaos opens. Generals proclaim themselves Caesars, coins lose value, legions fight each other like hungry beasts. The empire becomes a roulette wheel of crowns. 40 men rise and fall in half a century. In the squares, rumors whisper betrayals. In the temples, prayers are mixed with fear. Iron no longer shines, it rusts. The people, once disciplined, now survive. On the borders, Goths, Persians, and Franks test what is left of the walls. The smoke from the forges covers the horizon, and the Senate becomes an impotent echo. Each province tries to save itself, and the name Rome weighs more than it protects. Diocletian reorganizes the empire, divides, controls, reforms, but the cost is high. Freedom exchanged for obedience. The drum of glory already sounds distant, and under the dust of chaos, a weary empire tries to pretend it still rules the world. 378 AD, Adrianople. Dust screams, the sky burning with arrows. The spears break, Emperor Valens falls without glory, and Rome discovers that it may bleed. 410 AD. Alaric enters Rome. The sound of the gates giving way mixes with the crying and the cracking of chains. Statues are beheaded, temples desecrated, gold dragged through the streets. 451 AD. Catalonian fields, Attila roars, steel sings, earth swallows dead. 455 AD. Vandals return, and what was left of pride is plundered. Each date, a wound. Each wound, a reminder that eternity is fragile. And you, who watch this story, think, what would make an invincible civilization ask for forgiveness? If this journey touches you, leave your like and comment. What is the most decisive moment of rupture? The fall of Rome was not an event. It was a slow confession before the gods and time. Between 430 and 460 AD, Rome no longer dictates the pace of the world. It just tries to survive. The markets are empty, bread is expensive, wine is watery. The smell of mold dominates the alleys, and the gold has disappeared from the fingers of the patricians. The streets that echoed marches now hold the sound of the carts that carry the dead. The mothers, once haughty, whisper prayers in the corners of the basilicas. The pagan temples are silent. Christianity takes shape in songs of hope and fear. The Tiber runs dark, reflecting the distant fire of plundered villages. The soldiers sleep with their sword at their sides and their stomachs empty. The greatness became a memory. The wind that once smelled of conquests now blows only the dust of disorder. Rome finally feels its own weight. There is no scream, just a suppressed moan between tired walls, like an old man who knows he is alive, but not for long. In the corridors of power, silence is worth more than the sword. Senators conspire at lamplit dinners, while generals sell loyalty to the highest bidder. The borders burn, but in Rome the debate is about who will inherit what is left. The empire has become a board of slow betrayals. Promised reinforcements never arrive, messages are lost, orders are distorted. The people are suspicious, the army doubts, and the Senate lies. The smell of oil and parchment mixes with that of the rust of forgotten shields. What was once a duty is now calculation. Each man tries to save his little Rome, his home, his fortune, his name. And so no one saves the city. The virtues that built the empire evaporate under the heat of greed. When honor is negotiated, fate is sealed. Rome, which was once in unison, now speaks in 1,000 tired voices. And each voice is a farewell disguised as a command. 476 AD, night falls over Ravenna. The imperial palace, surrounded by flickering torches, breathes the end of an era. Odoacer enters with firm steps, and before him stands Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of the West. A boy with a lost look holds the diadem that no longer shines. The air smells of melted wax, iron, and despondency. No army defends, no senate protests. Only the sound of the sandals on the marble echoes like a farewell to the impossible. Rome, the invincible, surrenders in silence. There is no battle, only surrender. The imperial standard slowly folds, and the eagles that once dominated the world disappear into the shadows. Outside, the wind blows between ruins and broken columns. The empire does not fall with a bang. It blows out like a candle at the end of the night. And at that moment, the world realizes even the eternal has a time to die. Rome fell, but it did not die. From the ashes of the empire were born the pillars of the modern world. Roman law shaped laws that still govern courts. Its roads became routes of trade and pilgrimage. Latin, the basis of the languages that today unite continents. The discipline of the legions echoes in the ranks of today's armies, and the Roman calendar still marks our days. Basilicas became churches, and the symbol of empire resurfaced in crosses and crowns that spanned centuries. Constantinople kept its flame until 1453, keeping alive the idea of order and power. Rome has fallen physically, but it remains spiritually, tattooed in architecture, politics, and thought. Nothing that was truly great disappears, it just changes form. And perhaps this is the greatest legacy, to prove that eternity does not belong to empires, but to ideas that survive ruin. The city that taught the world to march finally learned to kneel. On the day Rome prayed for mercy, the echo crossed centuries to remind us that no power is safe when the heart turns away from virtue. Ruins are not just stones, they are mirrors. Where the marble has cracked, flowers sprout, and the ancient dust rests on the footsteps of new empires that have not yet understood the lesson. Time did what the enemies could not. It taught humility. And perhaps that was Rome's greatest triumph. Not dominance, but learning. Because every empire falls, but not every empire learns to start over. If this story touched you, subscribe and comment. Which event symbolizes the end for you? Share it so that more people rediscover in the ruins the value of faith, virtue, and humanity. End is not defeat, it is rebirth. The ruins still speak.